Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at the 2 to 4 player game, Binding of Isaac 4 Souls. So let's go ahead down to the table here. I'll give you a general idea how to play the game, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Binding of Isaac 4 Souls. This is basically what a setup might look like. You're going to have your monster deck, your treasure deck, and your loot deck. At the start of the game, you're going to put out 2 monsters from the monster deck and 2 treasures from the treasure deck. And you'll place your loot deck here. You also randomly get one of these characters and hand each to the player there. The first player will be the one who has gotten Cain or the saddest player. If you can't decide beyond that, you can roll some dice. The additional thing is each character is going to have a starting loot item, or starting item, sorry, and these are eternal items, and they're going to be in this deck right here. You just find the one that's the eternal item, and you put it by the player. You put the character they're playing exhausted, which will show you why that's the way in a second. And this is a variant you can play with. There's 3 additional souls that you can put out that if you meet these criteria on here, you will gain it. The first person to 4 souls wins this game. So I suggest not playing with that variant for the first game at least, until you get hang of it, and then later on you can put those in to add a little bit more to the game. Additionally to that, you'll get 3 coins, which these coins are really nice from, or pennies are really nice from the game, and you get 3 loot cards to start with. And simply on your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to gain a loot card, and then you're going to take a couple different actions. You can take these actions in any order you want. You can, well, let's start off with the first part of your turn. Before you draw your loot card, you refresh your cards. So if they were turned sideways, you put them upright. You'll gain your loot card, and then you could do one of these actions, or you could do as many of these actions as you want in any order, one time each. You can play a loot card from your hand, so you can take one of these cards that you just got and play them for effect. Now you could do this at any time, like this one here. When we get to another action you could do, you may play it, but you'll get to play 1 loot card during your turn. The second loot card that you can play will be related to your character. When you turn your character sideways, you'll be able to play your second loot card. Now, one thing to keep in mind on this is you may not necessarily want to play the loot card on your turn. You may want to play it on an opponent's turn, depending on what you got going in your hand here. So keep that in mind. And you also have your special item here, where this one here, if I use it, it adds 1 to the monster, to a player or monster till the end of the turn. So I'll just go like that. So I could use that on an opponent's turn too. The next thing you can do is you can purchase one of the treasure items from the store if you have 10 pennies. I only have 3. And you can pick one of the ones that are face up, or just take a random one for 10 pennies. The other thing you could do is attack a monster. So you can either attack one of these 2 monsters here, or random one from the top. When you attack a monster, you're going to look at a couple different things. This is how much damage it has to take to die. This is the number you have to roll on the 6-sided die, at least this or higher. And this is the amount of damage it does if you fail this roll. And this is the active ability of the monster here. So this one is when this dies, the active player skips their next turn. So you could lose a turn with this. But if you actually defeat this monster, which isn't that tough, you will gain 3 loot cards, because this is the bottom part, and it's a soul. So this one might be worth it. Plus, if you're playing with Samson with this card here, you can add 1 to your roll. So what you would do is you're going to look at Samson. He has 2 health and he does 1 damage when he hits. So you'll roll the die, and he gets a 1, so that's bad. And no matter what I do for this, he's still going to get hit. So now we're going to get into, well, right before, the last thing you can do on your turn is you can activate your player card, like I said, to play the loot card. But if you die, so if your character dies, there's a couple different things that are going to happen. When you take lethal damage, you don't actually lose the turn, but you're going to turn, or lose the game. You're going to turn all your cards sideways, so they're exhausted. You're going to discard a loot card, but not an eternal item. So discard one from your hand or on the battlefield. So one from my hand or on from my battlefield. And then you'll lose a penny. So you're ready to go. Next turn it comes around, you'll just untap these and you'll be ready to go. So like I said, you're going to be fighting for these things to get your 4 souls. And at the end of a normal turn where you didn't die, you're going to heal all the monsters. So if you do damage to this monster and you didn't kill it, it heals all its monster, or it's all its health. You're going to make sure you don't have more than 10 cards of these in your hand too, and discard down. Even if you died, you will be doing that, so you make sure you don't have more than 10 loot cards. And then you just pass your turn. Like I said, the play will continue until someone has gained 4 souls, and once they've done that, they win. Now again, not all these monsters will have a soul to get like this one does, but this one does not. But this one will give you a treasure, which is much better than the loot. So you're going to balance that in there. He's also harder to hit too. So one of the big things you're going to be doing during this game too is also going to be getting items to help make fights easier. So that is the gist of how to play The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls. Let's go back up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. So The Binding of Isaac is a fun card game. I really like the asymmetric player powers and the different items eternal items that you get with each of the characters. And I really like that race to get the 4 souls in there. And the monsters are not easy to take out. There is some luck involved, but a lot of it has to do with the loot cards that you get throughout the turn and how you use them. When you use them on opponent's turn and when you use them on your turn, you can do a lot to prevent an opponent from being able to defeat a monster and a lot to help you defeat a monster. So there is a lot in this game. And when you bring in those bonus cards where you can collect the souls basically by meeting certain achievements, that brings in another race to the game too. Overall, the component quality is really good. The card quality is really good on these games. I like the little pennies that come in the game. So great job on that. This is the first edition version here, so I don't know if if it changes with later printings, but good game. This is a lot of fun. The game says about 30 minutes, but I guess if you did 4 players, it could go. It varies, but I mean in general, the 30 minutes is right. In fact, it's probably a little less. So that's great for this game. This is a great game for playing with friends that aren't put off too much by the theme. So the theme is going to be a little grotesque in the game, but other than that, well done. A lot of fun playing this game. So that was The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls. Thank you for watching.